Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. I hope you enjoyed the dramatic new shorter countdown that we're trying out. I'm State Senator Mallory McMorrow. Welcome to Meet Up with Mallory. This is a virtual coffee hour, although today it's a bottle of water. So we do this every week that the Senate is in session and sometimes at other points to give you an update on what is going on in the state of Michigan, what is going on in your state capitol and the legislature, share some good news from around our district, and then we open it up for live Q&A. Some of you may have learned about this from some of these flyers that we've been going around in the community with. I was out yesterday chatting with some people. So hello if you are new. But for how this works, this is live. We do this regularly just to try to create a very low pressure way to keep in touch on what is happening. Hopefully it's a little bit fun on top of that, and then creating an opportunity for live Q&A with me. So we live stream this across 3 platforms. It is on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So no matter where you are joining us from, welcome. And when we get to the Q&A portion, and if you have a question that you want to ask, we utilize the comment section of each platform and it funnels it all to us and we can see your questions or comments. So if you do have a question or a comment, please make sure you type your name, if that is not obvious from your username, what city you represent or are in, and then you can go ahead with your question. I will bring Liz from my team on to moderate that portion. We were pretty light last week. We didn't have any questions, but if you've got any burning questions, fire away. So we will go ahead and get started. I want to share my screen with you. First up, you may have seen some news that was pretty scary to see the email or see the announcement. If you are in Beaumont's territory, which is our largest employer here in the district and where I delivered NOAA back in January, Beaumont sent out an email, an announcement asking anybody who is considering going to the ER to consider other options. And right off the bat, I received this email and was like, that is really scary. It noted that the ERs at all of Beaumont's locations are basically full. And right away, there was a lot of comments and questions about, is this an influx of COVID patients? What are we going to do? Is it safe? So we checked in with Beaumont. We reached out and learned that they are, like basically every business around the state, facing a staffing shortage right now, and that they have seen an influx of patients who are coming to the ER as a first resort, and a lot of people who don't necessarily need to go to the ER. So it's really kind of spreading the resources within the hospital thin. They have a little over 200 COVID patients right now, which has been pretty stable from what we heard with Beaumont. So there has not been a huge influx of COVID patients, but there is an influx of a lot of other people with things that can be treated otherwise. So they put up this graphic that we wanted to share for things that you should absolutely call or go to the ER for. So wheezing, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, if you have chest pain, displaced or opened wounds or fractures, dizziness or fainting, sudden numbness or weakness, bleeding that cannot be stopped. And this is a side note. I was hit with a garage door once on my head, and that is a very bloody injury to have. And I still have a scar up there from that. So that is a good reason to go to the ER. If you have a sudden inability to see, walk, or move, abdominal pain, coughing or vomiting blood, confusion or changes in your mental health status, fever with convulsions, a severe headache or head injury, or blood or urine or bloody diarrhea. And we are just doing a lot of TMI healthcare sharing right off the bat. Early in my pregnancy, I did have some bleeding that was concerning. A lot of women, especially in the first trimester, do miscarry. And that was a reason that I went to the ER right away and was very pleased that everything turned out okay. But those are all reasons to go to the ER. Now, if you have mild shortness of breath, mild injuries, a cough, a cold, or a sore throat, mild rashes or skin irritation, fever or flu-like symptoms, or earaches, Beaumont is recommending that you call your doctor first, your primary care doctor, and if they are not open, if it's an evening or a weekend or an off hour, to visit an urgent care clinic. And there are urgent care clinics all throughout our district, not only of Beaumont's, but independent care clinics, clinics that are affiliated with DMC and other clinics. So they are open, available, and able to see you, and that will take a lot of the pressure off of the ER so that people who are having, extreme medical emergencies can get in. If you have one, that you can be seen in a timely fashion. So wanted to share that update with everybody, especially with how concerning that email was. And I'm sure if you saw it, you were probably concerned as well. Another thing that I want to add on the topic of Beaumont and our hospitals is Beaumont and, frankly, hospitals around our state are facing a severe blood shortage. So for people who do need procedures, do need blood work or blood transfers, there is a very, very real blood shortage, and we need your help. So we will share a link, but find the Red Cross of Southeast Michigan. And if you are vaccinated, that is a requirement to donate blood, and healthy, please make an appointment, get out. I'm going to check it out myself and see if I can get out and donate some blood, and help shore up the blood shortage and help all of our neighbors who are having procedures where they need blood transfers. Jumping into an update from the Capitol. We had a pretty light session week this week in Lansing, but there was a report, which is a good sign, that there is a budget agreement between the governor and the Republican majority leaders of both the House and the Senate. So if you don't know, in Michigan is currently in divided government, where the legislature is run by Republican leaders in both chambers, and we have a Democratic governor. And so negotiations can get tricky, especially in this divided climate. But as somebody who does not serve on the appropriations committees, there's really a small group that leads the budget negotiations, but we have regular communication with them throughout the year and make sure that our constituents' priorities are put in on a request list, that they go in, that we are considered as negotiations are coming down. So we are expected in the legislature to be voting on the state budget on Tuesday. So there's a tentative agreement between the leaders, the governor's office, and the House and the Senate leader, but it still has to come up for votes. We vote on the budget. It's typically a very, very long session day, so I will probably be packing a bag just in case if we're there for a long night, but we will be sure to share updates on the budget process after we vote it out. So the budget, the fiscal year ends at the end of September 30th, and then we need to have a new budget signed and in place by October 1st to prevent government shutdown, make sure we can keep the lights on and keep running. So that is what we will be working on Tuesday. Lastly, in an update from the Capitol, many of you may know that I have been working on legislation around mobility and electrification and EVs since taking office, so for 3 years now. I also serve on the Council of Future Mobility and Electrification, which is a state council that is comprised of one Republican and one Democratic member in both the House and the Senate, as well as industry leaders, researchers from across the state who have been meeting regularly to consider policy and proposals and plans to put forward to position our state to continue to lead in the mobility space. And that not only means electric vehicles and electrification, that is transit, that is multimodal transportation. So that's everything, thinking about buses and trains to cars to ride sharing to scooters to bikes. And that is work that we are considering. So in line with some of that work, the governor announced grants to accelerate mobility and EV investments in our state. This is a program that's run through the MEDC, and there were 4 or 5 companies, I believe, that received funding grants for projects to expand access. And I think one of the things that was really cool about this first round of grants, which is hopefully a signal of how our state is thinking about mobility, is that these grants covered projects that are expanding access to those who may have disabilities. So regardless of your physical ability, you can get to where you want to go. Also a grant for the Michigan Flyer bus service to make sure that there is sufficient public transit for people to get to and from the airport, DTW, as well as other companies in the EV and charging space. So really exciting, and we'll keep people posted there on more. All right, next up, we are going to jump back to sharing my screen so that we can talk about good news in the district. This is just one of the best segments of our little show here, where we get to share in good news from all around our district, which is always a great way to wrap up a Friday and head into the weekend. So right off the bat, Royal Oak is looking to extend its social district into next year, June of 2022. This was something for those who may not have tried out the social district yet. There are a number of communities throughout the state who are taking advantage of state legislation that passed to allow for social districts, which effectively allows municipalities or cities to designate certain areas of the community as your ability to take an adult beverage, go get one from your bar and take it outside in the community. And I have tried out the social district. And one of the things that's been really great, especially as a new mom, navigating, how can we get our daughter outside and out into the community in a way that is still safe, knowing that we are still in a pandemic. And I'm still, like a lot of people, not taking her really anywhere indoors outside of doctor's offices and places where everybody else is masked. She's 7 months old, but this has allowed me and my husband to go pick up a cocktail, walk around the neighborhood with Noah in a stroller. And it's been great. And I saw Royal Oak Eats is a Facebook group that brings together people to share their favorite restaurants and trade tips about things. They actually hosted an in real life meetup, taking Facebook out into the real world, where grabbed some drinks and walked around the community. So this is great. This is legislation that I was supporting in Lansing as well, to allow this, especially to give our restaurants and bars and communities a greater chance of making it safely through the pandemic, because we want to keep as many of our beloved small businesses open as possible. Next up, I love this, thinking about creative ways to get outside and stay safe. Smith Middle School partners with the PTO on an outdoor chair project. So this started as an idea to enable kids a little more freedom during lunchtime, allowing them to take their lunches outside and eat in small groups and get fresh air. The PTO enthusiastically agreed, and within 3 hours, think about that, within 3 hours, all 75 chairs that had been requested were purchased. So that's awesome. This is a community rallying behind a creative idea to give kids a place to sit and get outside. And hopefully this is something that just continues long after we are safely on the other side of a global pandemic. And thank you to that collaboration to make that happen. Last up on our good news this week, something a little bit different. A newly discovered frog species native to the Peruvian Amazonian region has been named after former Detroit Zoo curator of amphibians. And I'm sure I will butcher this Latin name for this frog, Alabates sigrene. We can drop it in the comments. But anyway, inspired by the curator's name. So the new species is named after Marcy Segrin, curator of amphibians for the Detroit Zoological Society and responsible for overseeing the Detroit Zoo's National Amphibian Conservation Center until her passing in 2016. So this is honoring her and leaving her legacy, even though she has sadly left us. Segrin also led the DZS's cooperative breeding efforts for many endangered amphibian species, helping to restore populations in wild habitats. So pretty cool, and something that we wanted to end on this week. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen and bring up Liz, our Director of Constituent Services and Outreach. Happy Friday, Liz.
Hello. I actually added it into my title for once. So
Fantastic. All right. So once again, reminder for everybody, we are now opening it up for Q&A. So if you have a question, no matter what platform you're on, make sure to type out your name if that's not already obvious from your username, what city you live in, and then go ahead and fire away with your questions. Liz will read them out loud. That way, no matter what platform you're on, you can hear the question, and then I will do my best to answer the question.
yes, so we do have one question right now from Sharon on YouTube from Birmingham. Wants to know if Senator Bellino has any plans to move the bill regarding solar panels out of committee.
Hi, Sharon. That is a great question. So a couple of things. First of all, it's Representative Bellino. And I know this is not a criticism of not knowing who is in what chamber. So bills are introduced in both the House and the Senate. Sometimes they move in one chamber. Sometimes they move in both. They have to go to the other chamber and get voted out before they can head to the governor, kind of bill making 101. So Representative Bellino serves over in the House, but we have had similar legislation in the Senate, actually. So last term, we had legislation up that was co-sponsored by Senator McBroom, who's a senator out of the Upper Peninsula, and Senator Irwin out of Ann Arbor, to remove the cap on solar panels in the state of Michigan. And for those who may be wondering, what the heck is this bill about? Currently in the state of Michigan, there is a 1% cap on the amount of residential solar that can be generated from residential solar panels. So the Public Services Commission kind of oversees this, and all of the utilities, have the power grids that we get to all of our houses. But if you want to install a residential solar system, currently you still have to be hooked up to the grid. So kind of because of inflow and outflow of energy, if you generate excessive energy on your solar panels, that energy has to go somewhere. So in lieu of people having storage systems, batteries, maybe in their garages to kind of capture that energy goes back out onto the grid. So there's been a debate for years and years and years on what is a safe level of kind of inflow outflow. It's called distributed generation. And currently the cap is at 1%. That is the strictest cap in the country. So across the country, there are states that range from 5%, 10%, or no cap at all. And we actually had this bill up to eliminate the cap last term. And it had bipartisan support, but it didn't end up moving. And Senator Lowers, who chairs the Senate Energy and Technology Committee that I serve on, commissioned a report from the MPSC that I think was supposed to hopefully give us some more information on, is there a rationale for this cap? What is a safe level? We reviewed the study this week in the Senate committee, and it was very theoretical, and it talked more about rate-making design. So how you kind of account for distributed generation inflow, outflow, how you charge people appropriately for the solar they generate, the solar they keep for themselves, the solar they send back out onto the grid, and the benefit that might provide versus the usage of the grid itself. So it didn't really talk about the cap, but my hope is that we really push this bill forward again, whether it is raising that limit or eliminating it. We've heard the MPSC in testimony say before that there isn't an engineering or safety reason for that 1% cap. And the debate that you'll hear between, solar providers and utilities right now is that it is about the cost shifting, you might hear, of the usage of the grid. So I think there's also a lot that may change too. I know a lot of solar providers are now not installing solar systems unless they have a battery backup, as that technology becomes more widespread and easily accessible. So it is a bill that I supported last term. I hope it comes up again. And I have had conversations with the chair in the Senate to encourage us to take a look at this, especially knowing the reliability issues that we've had on power here in Southeast Michigan and Metro Detroit, how important that is. So that's a long answer to say, hopefully soon, but we are working on it. And especially in the Senate, this had broad bipartisan support last time the bill was up. So my hope is that it will come up again.
All right. Sharon just said thank you for the correction on the title of Representative Bellino.
Oh, Sharon, no problem. And I just wanted to clarify, I do not expect anybody watching to know people's names or what chamber they serve in or what the committees they're on. I mean, this is wonky stuff. Like, if I didn't serve in this job every day, I think keeping up with everybody, especially with term limits and people change every 2 years, it's a lot to keep up on. So there are never any wrong questions, and I'm happy to take all of them. So anybody else, any questions this week?
No questions this week, and I checked our submit your question form too, and no questions there. So none for right now.
All right. So I know we got an email this week, and I wanted to address this. Somebody who tuned in last week, we didn't have any questions, who asked, if we were covering something up, if there was something that we weren't asking. I will say we don't filter the questions. I will say we always ask the questions. Sometimes they're really sensitive. I think we will be sure that obviously nothing is hateful or racist. If something is just kind of an attack, I don't think we would address that. But we ask every question, even if I don't necessarily have the answer that you're looking for. I mean, I think that this is the forum where we want to address things that may be sensitive. So in answer to the constituent, we weren't hiding anything. We do ask all of the questions live, but we do this every week. So sometimes we just don't have questions, and that's okay. But for anybody who's not able to watch live, we do have a question form. So you can submit your questions in advance, and I will do my best to answer them on Fridays. Yep. So with that, Liz, I'm going to ask you this. What are your plans for the weekend?
There's a really fun coffee festival here in Lansing that's going on tomorrow. So wow. I'm really excited to go to that. Yeah, it's going to be in like the Cooley Gardens and whatnot. So cool. Really pumped to do that.
That sounds fun. I'm going to try to get outside with Noah. So yes. Anybody who's watching, I have a 7-month-old, and I am trying to get to every safe outdoor thing I can with her before the weather turns. So if you are a business that has a walk-up window, that is what I've been on the hunt for now, is places where I can take Noah, get a coffee, get a snack that's outside. Our favorite place to go in the mornings now has been Sabbath Coffee Roasters over in Clawson. So shout out to them. They have a walk-up window, and I bring Noah in her PJs, get a coffee. We sit on a bench, and she likes to yell at cars that go by. So
absolutely. Sabbath has the coolest cups. They have like a little cap on them, but it's, plastic and reusable. So I just think they're so cool. We went there recently. So
yeah, they're great small business in our district that opened right in the, kind of the worst of the pandemic. So we always like to support our small businesses, especially those who have good coffee and walk-up windows. So with that, I will leave everybody. I hope you have a great weekend. If you've enjoyed this, please tell your friends. We're trying to get more people to tune into these because, like I said, it's a really casual way to have an ongoing dialogue. And we will see you next time, hopefully with budget news that we will update you with. Have a great weekend.